Lelit Mara is very easy. You don't need many tools. I've got my little toolkit there. I use one small hex one, which is about 4mm I think, one small crosshead and one larger crosshead in this. I bought for £1 at Tesco's. I think I try and keep a screwdriver in every drawer. So the first thing to do to take the top off of Mara, or take the covers off, is remove the tray and remove the tank cover. Put them somewhere safe. Remove them from the tank. We'll just stand that there. It's a very nice tank. It's got place for a cartridge inside, bottom loading, everything's bottom fed, no tubes, wonderful tank. So we'll put that at the back. Then we need to undo 8 screws. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Be careful, there's well, that comes out. We've undone 8 screws, which I've already done. Save time. Then there's 2 screws here and here that actually release the top, release the case at the top, and then there's this machine screw here, and that one goes in the back of the thing near the power connector in the middle at the back. It's not on very tight. When you do this back screw, just focus in on it, when you do that one, don't screw it in too tight or you can distort the case. Just enough to secure. You don't want to distort the case with these screws because that would be quite annoying. Now the next screws you need to remove rather. I'll just swing the machine around a little bit. We'll take away the drip tray. Put that somewhere safe. And now you can see these last 2 screws here, which just need to be loosened. They don't need to be removed. Yeah, these ones here don't have to be unscrewed a long way, not completely, but they do have to be far enough out because there's a screw head behind here and the case needs clearance to go over that screw head. There's one on the other side as well, otherwise it will jam on there and you won't be able to get it off. So let's just ease the case out, and now, can you see that? This rolled edge needs to get past that, so you have to undo these enough for the case to spring open. And then she comes out, just slide that. Well, I've got felts on the feet, so it slides easily. And I want to move this case forward and then gently slide it out of the way. So I'm going to remove my screwdriver, remove that, bring the case forward there. And now we're going to just ease this out of the way gently. You don't want to distort it, bang it or drop it. Put it somewhere safe. And the case, as you can see, is fairly simple. Just slots out, rating plate on the back. Mara. Now, I probably won't remove the water tank carrier. That's a fairly simple removal, as you can see. A few screws, some base screws. Some base screws down here. We're not going to remove that for this. So the first thing we can see under there is a little micro switch, and that'll be tank presence detector, I'm assuming, just to check that there is actually a tank in there. And there's a little tab, you can see it here on the bottom of the tank, so when you slot this tank in, that tab goes there, and that's and you can see it's actuating the micro switch, which is a tank presence detector. I do like tank presence detectors because it just prevents errors and problems, and you know the tank's in properly. So we'll take that tank away, and we'll get down and look in here a little bit more if we can, see what we can see. Now here's a Hall effect sensor. That got a couple of wires, a little Hall effect sensor here. Let's move up and have a look. And that Hall effect sensor goes inside a tube on the tank with a little float in it, and very reliable method of water detection because it's centered exactly in the center of the float, and when it's good low water detection. Now under here, and I'm going to probably have to take the camera off the stand so we can see that, and apologies for being a bit shaky, but in there, if we can see it, is your vibration pump, and they've mounted that right inside there. It's a green one. It's probably probably not an Ulca, probably made by AR or perhaps OLAB, I'm not sure. Not sure who makes it, but no doubt I'll find out. So it's not too much electronics, just your mains connectors, your earth connector, tank presence sensor, and also the location points, so you can't misplace the tank. Now, there's your pump. I do recognise the pump. I'm not going to say who makes it, but that's the pump feed. And here is the boiler, 1.8 litres of sheer loveliness actually. It's a beautiful boiler. Stainless steel, nice thick ends, probably 8 to 12 mil ends, I imagine 2 mil thick. Beautifully made, really nicely bent copper piping, looks good. Fairly big thermosiphon piping, so that's excellent as well. LEDs at the front. You can see here the water and the steam wand here. I'm going to put this back on the mount now, and here we are. So here we are at the main boiler. So you've got your various components here. One, you've got your pressure relief valve, and you've got your vacuum breaker. Now I just need to have a good close look at the pressure relief valve. I think they use quite a high rating. Yeah, pressure relief valve rating is 3 bar, which is good because sometimes this system can get pretty hot. It can get up to quite a good temperature, you know, quite a good pressure. So 3 bar is extremely reassuring because when it does its first warm up, it really does get hot. I think it got up to about 2.5 bar, and sometimes a lot of these pressure relief valves are actually 2.5 bar. So it's nice to see it's 3 bar. That's your vacuum breaker there. Thermal sensor here. See it there? That's one of 2 thermal sensors. The other one's in the heat exchanger. You've got your pressure takeoff tube for your pressure gauge, and here and here, if you can see them, and I'm going to go in at the top again, you've got your 2 limit stats there and there. The boiler's still quite hot actually. I might use my screwdriver to point them out because there's no power to it. So you've got a limit stat there and a second limit stat there, as well as a safety valve. So you've got lots of redundancy should there be a failure of one of the components. So the thermosiphon tubes, as you see, the top thermosiphon tube, nice and large. I like to see a nice large tube. It means there's a relatively small offset, and the return tube is slightly smaller, which is great. So yeah, very nice construction inside, very nicely made, nice big 1.8 litre boiler, stainless steel. There's the top of the heat exchanger unit here, where the water comes in. I'm going to turn the machine round now. And here we come to the business end of the machine. Here is your Guy car box. It's SW18. Oh, well, it's their own. You're going to need to get it from Lelit because they'll have their own firmware on it. They've got the various temperatures coded in. These boxes can actually be programmed with custom firmware. A lot of companies do that now, so you can't just use standard Guy car boxes, and Lelit will have their own custom firmware for this box. So if ever you get a problem with it, you'll need to get a Lelit one. Let's look here and see what we've got. So, brew pressure takeoff. This is your expansion valve. It's a nice expansion valve, nice big one. I like these ones with the large pads. They adjust very well. Normally about 4 turns to get 1 bar. This valve is set to about 9 and a bit bar, so it's perfectly set, which is excellent. we have PTFE high pressure tubing there, and it leads down to the pump here, a specific pump for this machine. If you want to have a nice quiet machine, you're not just going to be able to replace it with standard Alcori X5 or anything like that. It'll be noisy. Then what have we got here? We've got relays there. Well, not relay, solid state relay. And I need my... I've got glasses on, and I actually need my torch to have a good look inside. So we've got the 3-position switch wiring here, thermostat wiring here, the power switch wiring here. You've got your autofill solenoid here, and you've got the brew, I think it's the brew reset, the pressure reset solenoid for the brew boiler there. And then you've got a pressure gauge here, pipes to the pressure gauge, and you've got a little pipe leading to the front of the drip tray, which is where the vacuum breaker and the expansion valve exit to. Now, there's not a lot of room in there, but it's not too badly laid out. The SSR is there, as I thought. It's all quick fit, push fit connectors, so very easy to get into. Really nicely laid out. One of the differences between this and the prototype, they actually use the solenoid operated vacuum valve in the prototype, which is a bit of madness really, but I know why they did. I think they're actually worried that the relatively low pressures in the brew boiler may not seal the vacuum valve properly, but of course that fear is groundless. My experience has been you can run these boilers right down at 0.4 bar and they'll seal perfectly effectively. Apart from that, there's your brew switch there. There's nothing really too complicated about it. Nice insulated boiler, just beautiful quality. Even though it might seem a complex machine because of the way it handles brew pressure, all the intelligence really is in the guy car box there. Otherwise, it's a pretty standard machine, except it's got extra thermal sensors, lots of safety, extra safety limit stats, tubes and pipes that just route water back to the tank or out into the drip tray. Really, not a complicated machine, so it's liable to be pretty reliable. And the construction, excellent, really, really nice. And if we go to the back of the group here, just a little thing that I noticed. You've got actually quite a thick steel group plate here that the group is actually bolted to, and a secondary frame underneath the front cover. So there's a front frame and then a secondary plate, and that actually keeps everything nice and rigid on the group so you don't get a lot of group movement. It's a really nicely put together machine. Really, really nice. Very impressed. Working on it, they thought about that as well, because if I move back here, if you want to get the guy car box out, you can see it's mounted just there. If you want to get to the relay, it's mounted just there. It can just lift out. So the sort of components you may over the years have to replace are easily replaced or got to for maintenance. It's not a difficult machine to maintain. The pump, once you remove the water tank carrier, access to the pump looks super easy, to be honest. I'm just not going to do this because it's keyed in here with a little nut, so the water tank is rigid onto the top of this heat exchanger connector, and it's just, I can't be bothered to undo it all, to be quite honest. And the last thing I didn't mention that you probably see will be the level probe, and I'm just looking for that to see where that is. Now that's interesting. What they've done, they've actually combined, this is clever, they've combined the level probe with the thermal sensor. That's really clever. I'll get a closer shot of that because I've never seen that before. Here we go. I can't remember if the prototype did it this way or not. That is a thermal sensor there, the 2 wires, and then that white wire there, that'll be a level probe. And they've actually wired that, and probably got a combined sensor and level probe, I don't know, but it's very, very clever. So that might throw you if you're looking to work on this and wondering where your level probe is. But yeah, that's just a very nice machine.